Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is directed by André Øvredal. Stella Nichols, played by Zoe Margaret Colletti, as well as her friends, Augie, played by Gabriel Rush, and Chuck Steinberg, played by Austin Desir, stumble across a magical book that unlocks the worst fears out of everybody. And it's up to her and her friends, as well as a newly acquainted Ramon Morales, played by Michael Garza, to find the secret behind the creation of the book, as well as a way to stop it from harming anyone else. So, to those who aren't familiar with the source material the film's based off of, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was a 3-book series created by Alvin Schwartz. It's a series that I'm actually pretty familiar with. I remember when I was a little kid, it was me and my 2 sisters. That was one of many book series that we would read all the time. It's a series that combines urban legends as well as original content to make these, you guessed it, scary stories. If I was to put it at any scary level, I would say that if Goosebumps was at like a 1, I would say that Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is probably close to a 10 on that scale. I think I can still make that comparison when comparing the movie adaptations of both series, because the Goosebumps film was very more child friendly, I guess you could say. It was very lighthearted. The scary elements were very low, whereas in this one, this is pretty much as far, if this was, a movie that you could show to younger viewers, I feel like this is probably as far as you can go before getting into like rated R horror territory. Until the end credits, I didn't realize that Guillermo del Toro had a part to play in this film. He created the screen story for this film as well as one of the executive producers for this film. And looking back, I can kind of tell he had his hand in a lot of production, which really brought out really good elements in the movie, such as something as simple as just light coloring. If you watch Guillermo del Toro's films, he's very much known for not only his creatures, but the color corrections that they do in the film and the cinematography. There's a lot of like vibrant greens and blues and oranges and reds to kind of set the tone of the sequences that'll happen in his films. In this film, it's no different, especially one during the middle of the film that is called The Red Room, and I feel like that brought a lot of elements that someone who watches his films can find something very enjoyable out of. And actually going on to the practical effects, I feel that that's another place that is probably one of the strongest points of the movie. I feel that if you were to leave this film, at the very least, you'd have a huge appreciation for the creativity that was put into the practical effects, the designs of the monsters that come up in the movie, and not only that, but how accurate they tried getting with the designs of the characters. Like I said, when I was a little kid and I read these books, they'd have these drawings next to a good amount of the stories, and they were so graphic, and it just paints this picture in your imagination of the story and the design going hand in hand, and it really brings it to life in this film. They tried very hard to make the design look almost identical to the designs that would come up in the stories. So I felt that everybody in the movie was pretty enjoyable. I thought everybody's chemistry was really good, especially within the Friends group. The performance of Zoe Colletti was probably the most noteworthy performance. Throughout the whole movie, I felt she had a lot of range, and the way the movie ends, I could see there being potential sequels, and just from seeing her performance in this movie, it'd be really nice to see her reprise her role in any future installments. So when it came to the writing of the film, I felt that anytime the creatures came up and the sequences happened with them, it was really good. But of course, you can't just have a movie that's about monsters coming up from the book and then it goes on to the next scene where that happens immediately again. You need to have things in between it. And in this movie, in between that is them trying to figure out how to stop it, as well as figuring out the origin of the book. I'd say that considering you have the obligation to have to explain that, the explanation they gave, it wasn't the worst explanation. There were a lot of elements in it that weren't that original, but again, the fact that they have to give some kind of explanation to make the story carry on, I felt that it was pretty decent, but at the end of the day, it's still supposed to be for a younger audience. It's not going to go full out with how graphic and horrific it could be in comparison to any other horror films that you may know. But that doesn't do any disservice. It's just that it's worth pointing out if you're going into this movie thinking it's going to be, at the same level of some kind of monster rated R film or something like that. It's not going to be like that for you. So if you go in thinking that, that's not the movie you will get, but you can still find something to enjoy from this film. So yeah, if I had any final thoughts, I would say that this movie is a good starter film if you're a younger viewer, or just any viewer at all that's not familiar with a lot of horror films that wants to get started in that genre. This is a good gateway to the world of horror movies. I feel like this is a good start. And in the near future, I could see this being a movie that people just watch every October. So with all that said, I'm going to give Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark a B+. What's your favorite childhood book series? Put it down in the comments below. As usual, if you like this video, subscribe. And thanks for watching.